Hi everyone. My story begins before I even took my first breath. My parents wanted a girl, but in our country, it's illegal to know the gender of a child before birth. The moment I was born, their faces fell. I wasn't the daughter they dreamed of. Worse, I was born with a deformity. This wasn't just my first moment in the world. It was my first taste of rejection. My parents never hid their disappointment. They told me outright, as did my relatives. They acted as though I was a curse they had to endure. 2 years later, when my sister was born, the house turned into a palace of celebration. She was the perfect child, the daughter they always wanted. She was showered with love, treated like royalty, and protected from every hardship. I wasn't as lucky. For years, I endured unimaginable abuse, both mental and physical. My father had a toolkit of punishments, most of them cruel. He whipped me with belts, forced me to squat hundreds of times, or made me sit in an invisible chair with my arms raised until my body gave out. If I failed, the punishment only got worse. One day, over a small mistake, he decided to humiliate me in a way I can never forget. He stripped me naked and pushed me out of the house for the neighbors to see. I was just a boy, barely starting puberty. I stood there, shaking, humiliated, praying for it to end. My grandfather saved me that day, but no words or actions could undo the scars it left on my soul. This cycle of abuse continued through my childhood. No matter how hard I tried, I was never good enough. I was the misfit, the curse, the failure. Every glance from my father was filled with hate. Every word from my mother dripped with disappointment. I grew up believing I didn't deserve it. Fast forward to adulthood. I got married to the woman my parents chose for me. She became my only light in the dark. And soon, my parents turned their cruelty on her. When I was at work, they subjected her to mental torture. Day after day, they broke her spirit and crushed her confidence and made her feel like she didn't belong. She kept it all hidden from me, bearing the weight of their hatred in silence. Over time, the vibrant woman I married became a shadow of herself. She lost weight, her health deteriorated, and she became frail, both physically and emotionally. It took 18 months for her to finally break down and tell me the truth. Hearing her pain shattered me. I had spent my entire life suffering at my parents' hands, and now I had dragged her into the same nightmare. I realized I couldn't let this continue. The next day, I confronted my parents and told them we were leaving. I didn't explain why. I didn't need to. To my shock, they smiled. They were thrilled to see us go, as if we were a burden they were finally rid of. This wasn't the first time they had tried to throw us out. Just 2 months into our marriage, they had demanded we leave over a petty disagreement. But this time, it was permanent. Now, we're out of that house. Life isn't easy. We're struggling financially. And there are days I don't know how we'll make it. But for the first time, we have peace. My wife is slowly regaining her health, and I'm starting to feel a weight lift off my shoulders. As I write this, I'm crying. Not out of sadness, but relief. Being kicked out was the best thing that ever happened to me. To all the parents out there, don't let your children grow up feeling unwanted. Don't punish them for things beyond their control. A child doesn't choose to be born, and they certainly don't choose their imperfections. Every child deserves love, compassion, and the chance to thrive. If you fail to give them that, don't be surprised when the universe turns its back on you in your old age.